There we go. I think we're live. Welcome, everybody, to this morning's call, and welcome, Michael. We are grateful to have you here today. And we've got a pile of people that are listening in, and many of them who don't know you. So give us a little of your background, where you're from, what have you done in your past, and what led you to become an author?
Oh, well, that's going to take up the next hour or so, isn't it? I really don't like talking about me very much. So anyway.
Well, I'm going to make you uncomfortable today.
Yeah, kind of, shifting around here. Okay. Well, I'm originally from the UK. I live in Vancouver in British Columbia. I lived here for the last 40 years or so. So I got into doing this. I think that was part of your question. From when I started selling solar energy systems in Southern California. I was living in Santa Monica in Southern California. And in 1980, I started selling apartment building hot water solar energy systems. And these would be priced anywhere between, well, my sales were priced anywhere between $7,500 and $93,000. So that was back, 40 years ago. That was some pretty hefty dollars in those days. And commissions are pretty good. And I pretty much did what everyone else is doing, standard sales and that type of thing. And I did pretty well. And when I said did pretty well, I was actually the second best salesperson in Los Angeles County. Could never beat the other guy, but that was okay. And I really liked the money. I liked the income. I liked everything else there, but I hated the idea of selling. I mean, the way that I was being taught, the way that I read and so on, just hated it. It just seemed so adversarial. And I always felt there had to be another way. So it's like life, you put out an intention and you start attracting things which are already there in the first place, but you never see them because you don't pay attention to them. And so I started getting to a series of different ways of approaching people, and through asking questions, and then through how to structure those and so on. But there was one key thing that was missing in all these, which were pretty good. And it's like they were all focused on how to get the sale. Asking questions to get the sale, for example. And the focus was, in my mind, still adversarial, because you start off with a good intention, or you're told that selling is about helping people. But in fact, it really isn't from the point of view of most sales training, because it's really focused on getting your needs met before your potential customers' needs met. And that's an energy that you give off. You give off an energy, and the words that you say, even expand or compound that energy. And so people know what you're doing, and the resistance is too much. And I just hated the rejection. I don't mind people saying no to me, this doesn't work for me, and so on, from a general conversation. I mean, you're never going to find everyone who's going to say yes. But it's that in your face no. And the reason you get in your face no is because it's that in your face way of talking with people.
And that energy that comes. I remember starting, one of my big concerns about doing anything with Nikan was I had felt that energy from people before.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I am not a salesperson, because I didn't want to make or have people feel that way with me talking to them.
Yeah.
And so I think you've touched on a really big deal, is that some types of conversations have an energy that we don't like, and learning how to switch that is a really big deal.
So here is the deal then. Okay, and I'm calling it as it is, because I mean, you've got a picture of my book there, and I've got it here just in case.
I've got it too.
Is that I'm pretty contrary. I'll get rid of. I'll challenge so many myths, especially in network marketing, which hold most network marketers back. We can talk about it now and talk about it another time. But the point is that you are selling. I don't care what you call it, you are selling. The question is what have you allowed to be indoctrinated into your mind as to what selling is all about? And for most people, selling is really about, telling, persuading, presenting, telling your story, even using the word sharing. I have a challenge with, because because the word sharing is an attempt to move away from the word selling. And selling is okay. One of the reasons I struggled with the title here, which was, how to sell network marketing, because I was thinking, people were telling me, no, turn it around to get rid of the word sell. I say no, because it's how you interpret selling, and it requires a mind shift, a reinterpretation, and a different foundation on how you think, what you think of selling is.
Yeah.
And you've either got this foundation or you can create some other foundation. But the foundation that I created, um, which is based on, in my book, is 4 principles. It's now 5 principles, but there actually are 4 principles in that book. Is based on the foundation of completely throwing out all the old ideas of selling and creating a different foundation. So the ideas of selling that most people have is based on techniques. People are being techniqued into buying stuff, and it can work. You can give up and you can buy stuff. And the network marketers are notorious at doing this. They persuade someone to join them, and then in that month later, there's no follow-up. There's no buying of additional products. There's no attempt to enroll other people. Why? Because the question comes up, you have to ask the question, did they buy into your system, into your program for your reasons or their reasons? And usually it's your reasons that they bought into it. And because it wasn't their reasons, they get out. It's their form of passive aggression. They reject you. So it's a matter of mindset. How do you rethink selling? So let's talk about that, shall we?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, folks, if you haven't had a chance to look at this book, it's one of 4 key ones that was really foundational for me to learn how to talk to people in a way that was comfortable for me. And I mean, I didn't do Nikan because I had to do Nikan. I didn't do Nikan because I was trained as a concert pianist and loved music, and Nikan persuaded me in. And then finding a way to do it in integrity was really, really important. And this book was really helpful for me to be able to do this in a way that was within integrity of my values of how I wanted to interact with people. So if you haven't taken a gander at this and some of the principles in here, I know it's just real quick, Michael, I know it's on Amazon, but I think they can get it directly off of a website you have as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've created a special website, which is naturalselling.com. That's my normal website. And just put a / network marketing.
And I'll put that up at the end, but folks,
yeah, okay.
I really do recommend you take the time to do this. And Michael will give you some principles here, but before we dive into that, what are your favorite aspects about network marketing?
My favorite, straight off the top of my head, is the fact that it allows anyone to potentially become financially independent on whatever that means to them. Okay, that's a phrase, that's a catch-all. It enables them to become financially independent with very little investment. I mean, that's it. And if we go back to what I was saying earlier, essentially what you're able to do is you're setting yourself up as an independent distributor.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing is you're basically helping, way I phrase it, is helping people buy your products or your services. It's not about selling people in the traditional sense. It's helping people buy your products or services. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is really powerful, and unlike sort of most commissioned sales reps or partially commissioned sales reps and so on and so forth, is that you have the ability to, if you like, create your own sales team from whom you can earn commissions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like owning a franchise. It's like owning a Subway franchise or something. I know Subway, but I love Subways. Anyway, so it's like owning a Subway franchise. And instead of just selling Subways, you're able to sell to other people Subway franchises. And it doesn't cost you anything to do that. You don't have to buy another franchise to be able to sell it. That's how you do it. And that's a remarkable part of it. And so
it is. I mean, it's hugely remarkable. And I don't know if people really understand the cost of what it takes to get started with most businesses.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, the amount of money people pay to open up a Subway sandwich, or to open up a McDonald's, or to open up a Burger King so they can make an extra 100 or 200,000 a year is crazy,
yeah,
compared to, you can start network marketing for pennies on the dollar for that.
yeah,
But then it all comes down to what we were talking about. How once we've got our franchise open, how are we going to talk to people and
yeah,
love talking to people?
yeah. So if you don't mind, I'm going to, with your permission, coach you a little bit and pick up on some things that you say as we go along. Is that
Please.
okay? Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great.
So earlier, about 2 or 3 minutes ago, you talked about talking to people. See, that word "to" I struggle with,
Mhm.
because it's really about not talking to people; it's talking with people. All right. And so, and it's a subtle change, but there's a lot of words that salespeople, network marketers tend to use that sort of really gives them away with regards to their intention. And that, that's really, and these things are really important. The words you say give you away, and it's an energy, and it's telling you where you come from. So let's start from the beginning a little bit. Let's start with this. What's the greatest fear most network marketers have that holds them back from talking with people or following up with people?
I would say many people fear rejection.
Yeah, it's really the fear of rejection that comes back, that holds them back. So let's explore why you get rejected first. Okay. So here's another question for you. Just jump the first thing that comes out of your mind. I don't even think about it. I mean, not even for a fraction of a second. So the question is, what's the purpose of a business, any business?
Making money.
Okay. See, that's an interesting response, because there's two aspects. This is really important. This is ground stuff, because this will help you and others shift their mind. Not that you necessarily do. I'm using you in a general sense,
Yeah.
right?
But when you ask that
Um,
person that question, that's what typically comes to their mind.
that's
They got
what
into
typically
business so
comes to
they can
mind.
provide an income for their family.
Yeah. So where's the focus when you say to make a profit? Where's the focus? Is the focus on you or your potential customers?
Exactly. It's on you. And that's the challenge.
Yeah. Or in your case, it's on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see, there are two things here. There's purpose and there's personal agenda. And what you just gave is your personal agenda. Now, there's no judgment on this. It is what it is. Okay. So there's no right or wrong. And in my world, there's no right or wrong. It just is. Um, so what I talked about was purpose. So you have personal agenda and purpose. And a personal agenda is what you want: make a profit, make money, self-fulfillment, whatever it is that you're focused on. Purpose is about helping other people. Whenever I ask that question, okay, and it's an important question in workshops and stuff like that, is that I know it's going to be one or two responses. And so if your sort of so-called purpose, or your focus on you, okay, do you think that's an energy that people will pick up on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because again, the words you say give you away, and
Mhm.
everything starts with a thought. Everything starts with a thought. I don't care what anyone says. Okay, so what you say comes up from your subconscious, and that's really important to understand. So you can start thinking in terms of how to make that mind shift. Okay, so that's the first clue. So there are three main reasons why people get rejected. People get rejected and objections, by the way. So the first one is that you might have been taught that selling is about um, presenting your products or your services as soon as you can, sharing your story as soon as you can, um, talking about you and how it's worked for you, and so on and so forth, right? You might have been taught things like ABC, always be closing, close soon, close often, how to overcome people's objections, all that kind of stuff. That selling
Right.
is a numbers game. Selling is a numbers game. Okay. So selling is a numbers game. If you've got the stomach to plow through people and deal with rejection, and there are a small number of people who can do that. There's about 15 to 17% of driven people who can do that. They don't care. I mean, they'll use natural selling as a means of manipulating. That's just what they'll do, and there's no right or wrong. It just is what it is. So the question is that, do you think people really care? And you're going to have to answer on behalf of people on this program. Do you think really care about you and what you think?
No, in fact, I've watched as I've gone in with other people and given presentations, and you can go in, you can have somebody who's really concerned about learning about your guest, or you can have someone who's really concerned about telling what they've got, and you can watch the guest just glaze over.
Yeah, I
People
know,
tell
it's
their own
incredible.
stories and they go on and on and on. And the guest is like, look, I've got to do my laundry. I've got to go pick up my kid. I've got to go take care of the dishes. They're like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care, because who are they mostly interested in you or themselves? Themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's not your story that you should be telling. It's their story you should be listening to. Because the question comes up, who's got all the history? They do. Who knows what they want? They do. Who knows why they want it? They do. Who knows if they're prepared to do what it takes to get what they want? They do. They have all the answers, so why not ask them? So instead of telling, you ask them. I'm going to get to that in a moment. You ask them. They've got the history. In fact, the two of you got two things that bring to the conversation. I call it natural selling conversational dialogue, because it's about dialogue, and I'll talk about that again. Is that they have the history. No, they know what they want. They might not know how to get it or so on, but they have the history. And all you have to do is ask them, or know how to ask them, and come from a different place, a different intention. Get out of your own way and start listening to where they're coming from. You also have something important to contribute, because you know what specific features, and by the way, all your different products or services are features, features in features, as it were, but you know what specific products or features that is going to satisfy what it is they're going to need to be able to get where they want to go. It's that simple. And so instead of just dumping on them and guessing, because when you present as soon as you can, as soon as you tell your story as soon as you can, all you're doing is guessing. Stop guessing and getting precise. People will tell you everything you need to know if you know how to ask them. And so you can then match your specific products, features, the business opportunity if necessary, whatever it is, to what it is they're looking for. And then you can ask them if they're interested. So that's kind of one switch. Stop telling, stop guessing, start asking. Make sense so far?
Absolutely. And it's a huge, I mean, people, the other interesting thing I noticed, I made that switch in my presentations, is people begin to trust you much faster. The more questions that you ask about them, the more that the trust factor comes, and the more that they're willing to take like the 2 sentences you say as opposed to the 50 you would have said the other way.
Yeah. So here's the second big. I'm rewriting my whole book at the moment, and the title of the book is How to Sell the Way People Buy. And I start off with 3 main causes of rejection and objection. So here's the second one in a nutshell. The second one is using closing techniques. Closing techniques is basically putting pressure on your potential customer to buy. The question comes up, if people have done that to you, did you like the experience of being put into a corner and being pressured to buy? And I doubt that you did, unless you were ready to get something and you just put up with it and so on, but you knew what was going on and you didn't like it. So closing techniques puts pressure on people. And there's a saying, what you give is what you get. You put pressure on people, they'll pressure you back. And how do they do that? They reject you and they object to your behavior. If they're showing resistance at the beginning for some reason. Usually it's because you're dumping all over them. You're just doing a kind of, I think it's, I think the Australians call it verbal diarrhea, and you're just doing a fire hose presentation, which is meaningless to them. They get bored, eyes goes glaze, as you said, and so on. And so using closing it, trying to attempt to close people, put pressure on them, really will increase the resistance, and it'll create resistance even if there was none in the first place. You know, you might not have had resistance, but then trying to close them, hammer them to the close. Not that many network marketers will do that, you know, because they'll probably start and go, when do you want to buy it, you know, which gives an impression of where they're coming from. I'm just having fun there, by the way. I'm just playing around with that. You'll find I'm I'll sort of mess around a little bit just to, for my own amusement, I guess. If it makes me laugh, I feel it's pretty good. But anyway, so closing techniques puts pressure on people, and one of the things that comes back is that, you know, one of the reasons why people resist is that they're looking for more information, and I beg to differ, because in most cases they're not looking for more information, or they are, but you need to find out the information beforehand to tell them the correct information, and then you wouldn't get the resistance. What they're actually doing is objecting to your behavior, and so treating so the third aspect of this, third resistance causing technique, if you like, is about responding to people's questions, comments, and concerns as objections to be overcome, and using yes but answers. I mean, basically, when someone asks you a question or expresses a concern, the moment that you try to attempt to come that, whose point of view are you coming from again? It's your point of view. And whose point of view is important? It's their point of view. And you have to honor what they're asking or saying. Even if there might be a bit of resistance, you have to honor it. And so, you know, the classic yes but answer is yes. Is the feel, felt, found. Sorry, feel, felt, found response. Okay, I know how you feel. Yes, but others who have
I understand how you feel. I felt the same way, but what I
myself,
found
yeah.
was.
Yeah, I lost myself. Or others felt the same way, and what they found was, that's what I was just struggling with there.
Yeah.
And so they don't. Do they care? Do they care how others felt? Do they care how you felt? Very rarely. I mean, if it's in context, they will. So I'm being sort of very general in some ways, because in some cases, whatever I'm saying does work, but it has to be very specific in context, and that very rarely happens. So in a general way, if you use present or talk about your story too soon and so on, if you use closing techniques, if you try to treat their questions, comments, and concerns as objections to be overcome, very rarely will you ever make a sale. And you're certainly not creating a relationship. All you're doing is focusing on you and what you want. So the question comes up, what's more important, getting your needs met or their needs met? Your needs to sell or their needs to be able to resolve some kind of problem they have.
Absolutely. Resolving their
That's it.
challenge. Yeah.
So those are the three. Those are three. And it's like, now you know, when I say you, I'm talking about wide audience. Now you know what's happening. You now have a choice. You can either continue doing the same thing, or you can eliminate all that stuff and start doing something different. Right. And when I say start something different, I don't mean skill set, taking action right away, but shifting the mindset. Because right now, if you're thinking the way that most people, salespeople, network marketers do, your mindset is here. My mindset is here. A lot of times people tell me, ask me what to say or do. I say I could. However, it's unlikely to be very effective, because if you're still working from the old mindset, you're still going to have that energy. You're going to say the words that you don't know that you're saying, which are going to create resistance. So it's important to rethink what selling is all about. And that's what we can talk about now if you want.
Excellent. No, those are great points.
No questions?
Right, I was just typing while you were saying that, and I apologize, I missed the end. I was just typing in the chat if anybody has any specific questions they want to ask.
Okay. So let's look at sort of well, how can you change this? What can you do to change? What you can base what I've been training over the last 23 years is and doing myself longer than that. Not so precisely, because I was formulating it before 23 years and was working it all out. I was doing it, but I didn't have it nicely compartmentalized. The way you can look at this is to change the environment, and change the environment in your mind, which will change the environment in other people. And so it's to come from a different place and rethink what selling is all about. And it's based on 5 principles, 5 natural selling principles. And the reason I talk about principles is, and not techniques, is there's a little poem that goes, techniques are many, principles are few. Techniques will vary, principles never do. And you can take these principles anywhere. You can use them in your personal life. So when we talk about principles, here's an example. If you're a car salesperson and you're taught techniques on how to close people and sell people cars, okay, that's very rarely transferable. Try using those same techniques and approach with selling, say, software to a software buyer.
Right.
You'll be thrown out. You'll be shown the door. And so techniques are very rarely transferable, but principles are. So the first principle is, and this is the real essence of what natural selling is all about, is let go of the sale. Just detach from the sale. I won't give you the full principle. I'm just going to give you the concept. You just detach from the sale. And the way you detach from your sale is to look at sort of the modes of communication that are available to you. There are 3, behavioral scientists have found that there are 3 modes of communication. Okay, how many?
3.
Making sure you're paying attention. Good. I told you I like to have fun.
Well, you're catching me good because I'm trying to write notes as you're going here.
I know. That's very unfair of me. I appreciate what you're doing.
It's not.
There. I really do. Yeah, no, that's fine. No, you've got a dual thing going on there, and I appreciate that. So, so the first mode of communication is basically telling, which is how teachers, are taught, is go and tell, and telling is the least persuasive way of communicating. So we're looking at essentially how to help people persuade themselves to listen to you and to enroll with you. I mean, that's the essence. Natural selling is neuroscientifically proven way of helping people to persuade themselves to want to listen to you. No more external persuasion. It's about them persuading themselves. And so telling, which is the first sort of way of communicating, is really isn't helpful at all. Telling has its place, but not in selling, except in a place times when you actually have to tell something, but it comes later in the conversation. The second one is discussion, and discussion enables you to be more open. You have discussion, debate, and so on, where you're interacting with someone and so on and so forth. Discussion falls down from the point of view that in discussion, especially if you're talking about something or debating something, is at the end of the day, you're always holding something back because you want to be able to make an impression. You want to be able to get your point across. And so your focus is still on you, which still creates tension. There's a saying that says, when I focus on me, I increase my attention. When I focus on you, I decrease my attention. And so that's another clue, for example. So the most powerful way of persuasion, where you don't have to persuade anyone, is dialogue. And Socrates actually did this 2,500 years ago. Socrates was able to talk to crowds of people in a way of asking questions that allowed them to persuade themselves and shift their minds voluntarily into thinking differently. And dialogue is very, very powerful. And dialogue is about having to let go, which is a challenge for a lot of people initially. But the first time you do that, it's amazing how the results change, because you're no longer attached to what it is you want to do. You're no longer attached to getting a sale. You're no longer attached to all your needs. And by the way, there's about 100 different needs that we have. Need to be right, need to get a sale, need to present, need to argue, need to tell someone they're wrong. I mean, there's a whole bunch of needs that we have. Need to tell your spouse to put down the toilet seat. I mean, all those kinds of things, okay? Let it go. Just leave it alone. Don't say anything. Just let it go. And the moment you detach, here's a magical thing. they detach. Rumi, a philosopher saint, said, you know, beyond the wrongdoing and beyond the right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And that's the energy of that field is an energy that you create. And the moment you create that, they step into that field with you. Now, here's the thing. 1 and 1 equals what?
2.
It actually equals 11. When you step into this field, because you get into what is known as a field of possibilities, you get into creativity, you get into all sorts of potential. It's two people working together. So you're working collaboratively together. And so instead of working against each other and trying to sort of find ways out or find ways through, whatever it is, you're actually working to resolve what it is that they're looking for without getting in your own way. And that's a really fundamental principle from which to work on.
I kind of have the same philosophy within my marriage. There's my way, and then there's her way, and then eventually we have to come together and find our way. And it sounds a little bit like what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I think marriages are different though, because there's her way, my way, and basically it's just much easier to do it her way.
Michael, you might get us in trouble here.
Oh, that's the whole idea. You know, with trouble comes potential opportunities, doesn't it? I think you've got some questions. Do you want to throw out a couple at all?
Let's take a gander at these. Can we invite Michael back again with the intention to work one-on-one with our individual dialogues?
The answer to that one is yes. That's the thing I really love doing is one-on-one or very small group coaching. Now, I mean, obviously there's a fee involved in that. So if anyone is interested in doing that, and that's what I've been doing the last few years, one-on-one coaching with mostly with mainline salespeople. And I would say about 20-25% network marketers. But if you want to get in touch with me, write to me, Michael Oliver at naturalselling.com, Michael Oliver at naturalselling.com. And Michael is Michael. But yeah, I do that. I love doing that, actually. That's my passion. Okay, got another one?
Sweet. I don't see anything as yet, but we're open to take.
Okay. So let's look at the second principle. The second principle gets back to a question I asked you earlier about the purpose of a business. The purpose of a business is not about making money or to do with you, believe it or not. And yet it is. It's a balance. I mean, it is and it isn't,
Yeah.
right? But the purpose of business is to help other people solve their problems and to get what they want, need, or desire. That is the reason you're in business, and I'll prove it to you. I mean, if you went into somebody and sat in front of them, a buyer or something like that, or a potential customer, and they say, okay, so what's the purpose of your business there, Dave? And you say, well, funny you should say that. Purpose of my business is to make money. Well, what do you think is going to happen? You know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
But so we have to get rid of that energy. And we've already started that shift in energy by understanding why you get resistance, and also, you know, how to start overcoming by detaching from the sale, by just letting go. It doesn't matter. It's not a trick, by the way. It's not an old sales trick about detachment. This is you really detaching from it. Because the more you detach, the more sales you make, the more people you'll enroll in network marketing terminology. I don't like using the word recruit, by the way. Think about it. Enroll or recruit. Enroll has much more enveloping, much more welcoming sort of feeling to it. So it's about helping people solve their problems instead of helping you solve your problem. But at the end of the day, if you know how to do it, you will solve your problem. So I'll quickly move on from there. There's some discussion behind that we could do, but I'll quickly move on from there. Is that if we agree then that the purpose of a business is to help people solve their problems, the only way we can do this is to what?
Find out what their problem is.
Which is asking questions.
Right.
Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky, because you'll hear a lot of sales trainers talk about it's about asking questions. But it's not just about asking questions. And here's the principle in its full. Natural selling is asking the right types of questions, underline that, okay, at the right time. And there are certain types of questions which some are basic questions, they're logical questions, and some are emotional questions. But it's knowing how to ask those questions at the right time. And the reason reason I talk about types is because of the structure that you can learn. You can learn them. In fact, they're in the book. There's a framework in the book. I think it's. I'll just flash it up if I've got it here. There it is. Just have a quick glance at it. I think that's it. Yeah. So there's a framework in the book. I've recently expanded on that framework, but that framework works. And what that does, it allows you to be able to break down, if you like, how you go about asking questions. So you're going from sort of logical to emotional questions that allow people to get involved. And one of the reasons you ask questions is because it involves people. Telling does not. Asking questions involves. There's a lot of reasons to ask questions. Now I won't go into them right now because I want to keep it a little bit open here regarding time. But again, it goes back to who's got all the answers. They've got all the answers. So if you know how to ask the right types of questions at the right time, people will tell you everything. If you're coming from the right intention, which is letting go, because they'll know if it's a trick or not. So I'm going to give you a question here, a really important question, which you can ask in many different ways. All right. And you can do it right now. As soon as everyone's finished this call, they can pick up the phone and they can talk with their friend about this one. Dead easy. And the question is, so let's say I knew you, Ron. I pick it up and say, Ron, it was interesting. I was listening to this guy today, and he asked me a really interesting question, which got me thinking. And I thought, gee, I wonder what you would, how you would respond. And the question was this: if there was one thing that you could change in your life right now that would make a huge difference in your life, what would that be, if anything? Now that question could be asked in a lot of different ways, but in this specific case, because each way is in context, in this specific way, think about it. If someone asked you that question and approached it the way I just approached it, they knew you. They knew you. Would you feel that you were being manipulated or put in a corner by being asked that question?
No.
No. Because it engages you. Asking questions engages, it involves. That's one very powerful question, which I'm just going to give everyone. Try it. Don't take it anywhere. Just listen to them. Just listen to what they're saying and ask them to expand on what they're saying. Now, there's a way to ask them to expand on what they're saying as well. I'm not going to get into that because that starts getting into skill set. We're in mindset right now. All right. And I guarantee you, just about everyone will be quite happy to talk about anything that comes up. It might not be anything, but anything that comes up, and just ask them about that. That's all you have to do, and see how willingly they'll give you information they probably never told you before because you never bothered to ask. Information they never told you before because if they did try telling you, you probably didn't listen anyway. Which brings us to the fourth principle, which is listening.
Right.
Listening, the most important skill to master. Listening to what is being, there's two words to put in here. Listening to what is being meant as well as what is being said. Meant is the meaning, is the meaning, the why. Okay, in our terminology now, it's the why behind the what. Said is the what. What do they want? So I could say to you, for example, just quickly come up with any answer there, Ron. So, Ron, what is it you want? Okay, just come up with something.
Let's say Ron wants he wants to do a different job.
Okay, different job. Very logical answer. Okay, it's an answer out there. Different job. Okay, and so here's where you start going away from the what into the why, but it's only the surface why. The why goes deep. And I talk about drilling down deep to their heart buttons, not the hot buttons, but the heart buttons, right? So what's the reason, can I ask you, Ron, what's the reason you want a different job?
You know, that I just, my boss is a jerk. I don't feel like what I do even matters there.
Okay, so do you think the reason that other people want jobs is because their boss is a jerk? Everyone else who wants would rather have another job because their boss is a jerk? Yes or no?
Not for everybody, no.
No. Okay, so it's your personal reason. So now we start getting to the why. But here's the clue. Here's the thing, is that most network marketers will suddenly jump in on that. This is a time for them to start, well, you know what? I can help you do that.
Right.
This is not the time. The time is to go deeper. It's to allow the person to go deeper into the different facets of what's happening. And it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do as long as you let go. You notice about about your purpose. It's about asking questions, non-manipulative questions. Let's be clear about the questions. I'm not talking about manipulative questions that are designed to get the answers that you want. Okay, if you ask questions to get the answers you want, whose answers do you get?
Yours.
Your answers. And it's their answers you want. Okay, there's a lot of things about asking questions as well. If you ask a question, don't ask more than one question. And when you ask the question, shut up. Yeah, don't say anything. It's not a trick. Let the other person think. Give them time to think. You know, silence is what?
Golden.
Golden, yeah. So now you're listening to what is being meant as well as what is being said. So instead of listening like most people do selectively for the things they want to hear, you listen openly. And all of a sudden you'll start hearing things that you've never heard before, which they probably have told you before, but you never heard, from which you can build. Your questions will come from things that you can learn from me, for example, questions that come from the answers to previous questions that you've heard, and they come from other sources as well. You don't have to think about it very much, so you can concentrate on the person. And the fifth principle is about feeding back what you think you heard they want. So it's about understanding, continually understanding, saying, let me understand if I heard you correctly. I'm not quite sure if I understood that. Could you repeat that? So do you mean that, or are you saying that? So you're making sure you're on the same track all the time. Most conversations, sales conversations especially, and most conversations, it sort of go like this. You know, it's like a mountain, and you start a tunnel on one end, you start a tunnel on the other, and it sort of go, and you miss each other. Yeah, the idea is to meet in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And you want to meet them where they are and take them where you want them to go. No, take them where they and you want to go, something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
And this is how you prevent yourself from overcoming objections, because what you do is you accept. There's one example, is that you listen to a concern, you listen to a comment, you listen to a question, and you accept it for what it is, and you talk about it. It becomes part of the dialogue. Instead of separating itself, which is what happens in normal sales, instead of separating the whole thing, now you're getting into handling objections, for example. It's all part of dialogue, because people should be asking questions. They should have concerns, not necessarily should, but they're likely to have concerns. And so discuss them. Discuss them. So for example, here's one. Wow, that sounds expensive. How do most people respond, do you think?
Well, let me tell you why it's not.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Do you know what they're actually asking? Do you know what they're actually saying, I should say?
Yeah.
You have no idea.
You don't, because you don't know if you don't know if they don't have the money, or you don't know if they don't know if it's worth it. You don't know if it's more important than the thing they were planning on buying tomorrow, or you don't know.
You have absolutely no idea. And here's a big clue, which everyone can write down. People don't think what you think they think. People do not think what you think they think. Your thinking gets in your own way. Your thinking that you know what they think gets in your own way. So stop thinking and start finding out. So when people say, well, this sounds a bit expensive, instead of trying to treat it as an objection, all you do is you treat it as part of the dialogue and the conversational dialogue, and you ask a question. You say, when you say expensive, can I ask what you mean by expensive? And you'll hear different answers. You just gave me 3 or 4 different answers just there, and you'll hear more. But it's their answers and where they're coming from. And it's not an objection, and it's not necessarily resistance. It's just a statement that they're making. And it could be they don't have the money. It could be they don't have the money right now. Um, and there are ways of finding the money. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to be able to help them, if you like, through that, where it is, if they need any help. And so that's the 5th principle. So you got 5 principles, and those 5 principles are, in a sense, the mind shift. And now you have to, now you have to act on it.
I missed one of them. I've got let go of the sale, just a big mindset. And I've got
detach. Yeah.
The purpose of a business is to help others solve a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third one, I think, is where I came off track and didn't get that one down.
It's about questioning. It's about asking the right types of questions, underline types, and asking the right types of questions at the right time.
Got it.
4th one is listening to what is being meant as well as what is being said. Over to you.
Yep. And then I got the 5th one is feeding back what you think you've heard that they want.
Yeah.
And just asking that in a multitude of ways. I'll never forget the one of the key phrases that I probably the thing that lasted the longest for me out of here is after you drill down, finding out what they really want, or what they're missing, or what the gap is in their life. I remember there was one you had that basically says, so how does that make you feel? And getting to the emotion, so to speak, of the problem or the challenge that they're in after you've drilled down. How does that challenge make you feel? And when they connect with the feeling and the emotion, then they're like, oh, I don't want to be in that spot anymore. And then you propose some really great ways of illustrating solutions, if you will. So
thank you. Love
your material.
Thank you. Well, if you want to take the next step, I mean, as I said, we created a website that you can pick up 2 things. You can get this book and this audio, which is 12 Ways to Start Effective Conversations Without Fear. There'll be a kind of a scratchy thing I did about 20 years ago, which would be a recap of some of the audio. Would be a recap. By the way, you won't get this. It'll be they're all downloads. Be a recap of the principles and what's happening. And the other one is actually 12 ways. It even gives you sort of how to describe what you do. And it's not about a matter of sort of describing it's not what you do that's important, it's how what you do helps other people. And that will really help you understand sort of what your business is all about. But it also gives you all different ways, because there's so many different ways that you can start conversations in what I call the connecting stage. You know, whether it's you're calling a lead, whether someone's calling you, you're talking with a stranger, talking with a friend, talking with a business associate, calling a referral. There's about a dozen different ways that of connecting, and they're all basically it's just slightly different the way that you start the conversation, just to get that connection, and then the rest of it is pretty much the same. But it's all about the focus is on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you've got it up there. Oh, great. Thank you.
Let me wrap up a couple things here. This is from Candace. She says, I found your book on my shelf a few weeks ago and decided to work through it slowly, seeking to apply as I fly. And I'm enjoying sweet business relationship as well as good friendship with a new client. In the course of things, she is progressively purchasing more solutions with great satisfactions. Thank you.
Terrific.
Yeah.
It works. It works. It
does. And you feel much better about what you do as you do it.
Yeah.
How you're doing it. So.
Yeah, it is. It's just a great feeling. It still amazes me. I'll go through a sequence of questions with people. People call me and say, hey, can I talk with you? And I give them a 20-minute consultation for free. I start off and I ask them questions, and I ask them exactly the same questions most times, not always, because you have to put it in context, right? And it works. At the end of the day, I mean, it's like an immediate relationship. Here's another thing. In sales network marketing, you're told to create relationships in order to be able to sort of start talking about what it is you got. To me, that's manipulative. That's designed to be able to get what you want. So where I come from is, forget about creating relationships to get what you want. Create the relationship right away in the way that you're talking with people. The moment that you, in fact, even before you open your mouth, you've created the relationship. The energy is already gone there before you open your mouth. So when someone calls, for example, I mean, one of the questions I ask is, how can I help you?
Yeah.
You know, I get stuff on Facebook, for example, all the time. People, they friend me, and then I get a question, then I get to think, how are you, in Messenger, right?
Yeah.
And which is totally the wrong way to approach, because if you want to be able to convey something, come from a different way. It's a different question that you need to ask. You need to sort of get down to it pretty quickly. I don't mind people asking me. You know, I get asked things all the time. I don't mind. It's just I'm curious about the way they ask it. So I reply and say, I'm fine, thank you for asking. How can I help you? Because that's all I'm about. On my website, that's all that it's about. On my timelines, LinkedIn, whatever, it's all about. It's about helping you. And if you haven't read that and got that to begin with, then it shows me you haven't done your research. So here's another thing: do your research. So, you know, it's all the sort of way that you approach it, and to have a lot of fun doing it as well. You've got to keep it fun.
Good. Hey, it looks like I've got somebody with their hand up in the gallery. Let me see if I can get them on and see what question they have.
Okay.
Laura, are you there? You can unmute your mic on the lower left-hand side of your screen.
Hello, yes.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, thank you. Well, I was thinking, because thank you very much, first of all. I'm living in Spain right now.
Yeah.
And I have a big how-to, because of course we try to connect with friends, with some referral people and everything, but in cold contacts, like as you already say that, hey, how are you? It's like very odd. And of course, sometimes, you know, friends are already fed up of listening to me. So how to expand that?
Okay.
Just a tip, of course, your book, it's very interesting, but maybe you can give us a tip.
Yeah, sure. So question, why do you think it's odd?
Because I don't know the people. Maybe I don't know anything at all. And I don't know if actually my product, my business, service, whatever, can actually help them.
Okay.
And I
So
cannot ask, hey, tell me about what do you want to change in your life, since they will say, why? I'm not going to tell you anything. I don't know you at all.
Okay. So here's the clue. Your first thing is, if the purpose of a business is to help people solve their problems, the first thing is to find out if they have the types of problems that you might be able to help them solve. All right. I use the word might, because, you know, you might have something that will help them solve it, and it'll help them 100%, but you don't know if necessarily they might not take it for all sorts of reasons, you know, their own reasons. And so just think on that, you know, that's the purpose of your business. And so you're starting a conversation to discover if they might have that. Now, this is where you change the start of the conversation. And that is just open up a conversation, which is, hi, how are you? It's like sitting on a park bench. Someone comes and sits next to you and you say, what do? You either shut up and don't say anything, or you turn to them and say, hi, how are you? And you start asking your questions, such as, you know, we got the forms, you know, about the forms, you know, family, occupation, that type of thing, you know, about, do you live around here? And start opening up a conversation like that. So do you come here? I haven't seen you in this area. Do you live around here? They go, yeah, I do. So where do you live? Do you live actually in this area, or is it? No, I live somewhere else in the city, and I decided to come here for a walk. And where do you live? And you just have a general conversation, you know, and it's really sort of an interesting conversation of establishing where they are. You can get into what do they do. So, and what kind of work do you do, if anything. Always add if anything on the end, because you don't know. When you say what kind of work you do, it's an assumption they work. Maybe they don't. So add in if anything. So just talk about the conversation. And at a certain point, and ask them about their work. Say, so now how long you been doing that? Do you like do you like your work? And they go, yeah, I do. Yeah, sounds pretty interesting. What do you like about it? And they'll tell you. So and now you start shifting, and you say, so is there anything you would change if you could about your work? Or is there anything you could change about where you live? Okay, you're asking about change now. And people have two truths. There's what they will tell you and what they would really like. And what they tell you could be the stronger truth. What they would really like could be the strongest truth. I don't know. But you'll listen to it. But you have to open yourself up. And then you say, well, this is the question. This is the pivot question, which is like the question that I gave earlier. So if there was a way that you could change that, would you do that if it's possible? Or you could go back a little bit, just go back a little bit, and talk about the job and say, yeah, I'd love to be able to change it. So what is it? What's the reason you change? What would you do? And they would tell you. And why would you do that? And they tell you, and you say, well, if there is a way that you could do that, do you look out for things? Do you look out for opportunities like that? And they'll say, yeah, why? Do you know of something? You say, yeah, I might. If you're interested, I'd be happy to share that with you. You see, what you're listening for is basically four things. There's only four things that people are looking for: better health, more money. There's reasons behind it. More time, more freedom. Just listen for those things. You don't have to talk about them, use those words, but just listen for those four things. That's all basically I talk about. In fact, really, there's only two things. There's more money and better health. Because, more money, better health, more money will give you more, could give you more time, could give you more freedom. But you're listening for those things. You're saying, look, if there was a way that you could change that, do you look for opportunities like that? And they go, yeah, I do. Why? Do you know something? You say, yeah. I
Michael,
might.
that is so important, because there's some people who don't want to change it. They're not willing to.
No.
They're not put forth the effort. And then it doesn't matter how good your solution is. If they're not looking, if they don't realize they're looking for a change. And that's right there. If they don't realize they're looking for a change. And I think that your conversations help people to realize, maybe I really don't like what I'm doing as much as I thought I did.
Yeah. And if they say no, and if they've gone pretty deep with me and they say no, I'm really curious now, because being curious is really important. And so I would actually say, I'm curious. You sounded kind of like as though you really needed to change that. Why wouldn't you change if an opportunity came along to do so? And now you're going to get into other areas, and they'll tell you. You say, well, at the end of the day, this is how you end it. You say, well, if you ever should change your mind, this is the kind of thing I do. I help people like you too. You repeat back what they wanted. And if you ever need to get in contact with me, here's a card, or I can give you my phone number, or would you like to take my phone number? Don't make it seem obvious. Don't just suddenly hand over your card or anything like that. Just keep it very relaxed. If they don't want it, it doesn't matter. But what you've done is by doing it, you've practiced. The more you do it, the more relaxed you become, the easier you become. And by the way, this is very experiential. You have to do it. You have to take action. Thinking about it won't change anything. You have to take action on it. So let me ask you, Laura, does that help you?
Sure. A lot. Thank you very much, because it's the anxiety, how do I approach it? I want to start to speak about the business, and so it's you really, wow, blow my mind. Okay. Thank you very much.
So Laura, just one last thing. Go and do that. Okay, what I've suggested, and there's going to be a recording of this, I'm sure, and so you can write down whatever I came up with. Is go and do that with no intention whatsoever of talking about your business. Go and do that 2 or 3 times. Just ask those questions. And when they say, yeah, I'd love to change, my life is miserable, my health is down, and say, well, you'll find that you'll have to, because obviously you're here to help them. But even if they get to that stage, just say, well, I wish you the best. I hope you manage to work it out for yourself. Have that kind of attitude. But at the end of the day, if someone is hurting, then obviously let them know that you might be able to help them. But just let it go. Don't even think about talking about your business or getting to that objective.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
That was fun. Thank you.
Laura, that was a great, great question, and a great way for us to end this off. Michael, I want to thank you so much for your time and your efforts,
You're welcome.
and for sharing your heart and your soul. For those of you who are listening, if you have not visited Michael's sites, grab the information up above here. If you don't have his book and his audio, I recommend you do it, because there's a pile more information that he can't cover here in just 1 hour. And the ability to absorb it. I just sat here and thought, it's been a couple years since I've been through the book. I think I'm going to read it again. And I can't wait for your new material, Michael. Let us know when that comes out so that we can pounce on that. And again, guys, if you really like this and want to dive in, Michael is open for coaching. So I put his email in the chat. Michael Oliver at naturalselling.com, and you can contact him directly if you're looking for coaching in those areas. So with that, anything you want to end with, Michael?
No, I think you've done a great job there. Thank you. This has been thoroughly enjoyable. And just one add about the coaching is that, if anyone wants to get together a group of people, then we can do that, and we can go through it sort of fairly rapidly. I'll give you a lot of good stuff that you can start using right away. But but Ron, thank you. That's just great. That's fantastic. And also thanks to Dave as well, Dave Johnson, for inviting me. Look forward to helping you some more. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you jumping on the call and all the questions that have come in the comments. And Michael, once again, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see you, everybody.
Okay.